Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're going to be looking at some really interesting stuff all about America's food system and how it affects our health.
Okay.
We've got Dr. Mark Hyman's interview with Lewis Howes,
Right.
plus some pretty shocking statistics on chronic diseases and food addiction.
Yeah. There's a lot there.
Okay, so let's just jump right in.
Yeah, let's unpack this.
Dr. Hyman makes a pretty strong claim right off the bat in his interview.
Okay.
He says that the American food system is, quote, designed to kill us.
Wow.
That's a pretty bold statement, right?
It is a strong statement for sure. But I think when you look at it in a historical context,
Okay.
it kind of starts to make sense. Think about like the period after World War II.
Okay.
There was this huge push for increased food production. It's all about churning out calories, especially the cheap and easy to make starches and sugars
Right.
to feed a booming population.
So the goal was to ensure everyone had enough to eat, which on the surface
Great.
sounds pretty positive, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like a lot of these big kind of societal shifts,
Yeah.
this one had some unintended consequences.
Like what?
Well, first it created a calorie surplus,
Okay.
especially of like those refined starches and sugars, which we know aren't exactly the healthiest things.
We all know those excess calories lead to
Yeah.
weight gain and other problems.
And then second, this industrial style of agriculture was really hard on the environment.
Okay.
So you've got depleted soil, dead zones in waterways from all the fertilizer runoff, and all those pesticides.
Right. Plus all the ethical issues with factory farming, which is a whole other can of worms.
Yeah, that's a whole other thing.
That we could probably do a whole deep dive on just that.
Exactly.
But it just feels like this whole system, how we grow our food, how we process it, how we eat it,
Yeah.
it needs a serious overhaul.
A lot of people would agree with you there. And the real point here is this whole flawed system is impacting your health, like more than you realize.
And that leads us right into this chronic disease epidemic that we're seeing in America. These statistics that you sent over are alarming. 6 out of 10 Americans currently have at least one chronic illness.
That's a lot.
And 4 out of 10 have multiple chronic illnesses.
Mhm.
And then if you're over 65,
Wow.
that number jumps to 83%.
That's unbelievable.
But honestly, even scarier is over half of American children are dealing with chronic illnesses.
It's definitely concerning, yeah. And they've skyrocketed in recent decades. We've got an onslaught of heart disease, cancer, type 2 diabetes,
Mhm.
autoimmune conditions, mental health issues.
Yeah.
It just goes on.
Yeah.
And honestly, I think it's no coincidence that this huge jump in chronic illness has happened at the same time as this shift toward an industrialized food system.
Right. It makes you stop and think, like, do you or someone you know personally have to deal with a chronic illness?
Right.
Chances are, yeah.
Pretty much everyone does.
Yeah, it's an epidemic.
It really is.
It's crazy. It touches almost every one of us in some way.
Yeah. And as Dr. Hyman points out, these huge multinational food corporations play a big role in this.
Yeah.
He uses the term commercial determinants of health,
Okay.
which basically means these companies put their profit over public health.
So basically, they make money, and then we as taxpayers are left holding the bag, having to deal with the consequences of it.
Pretty much. It's like they're privatizing profits, but
Yeah.
socializing the costs. Think about all those aggressive marketing campaigns we see
Why?
for all that junk food, or lobbying against things like GMO labeling.
Yeah.
These corporations have so much power,
Yeah.
and they use it to protect their bottom line, even if it puts our health at risk.
And there's some crazy examples of this in the stuff you sent over. Like,
Yeah.
did you know that the USDA's, Got Milk campaign?
The one we all grew up with?
Yeah, the one we grew up seeing everywhere was actually funded by taxpayer dollars.
Oh, wow. That's wild.
It's wild.
It really highlights that whole revolving door between government and these big companies. It kind of makes you wonder how we can actually expect real change when the people in charge are so closely tied to the very industries that are causing the problem.
It's like the fox guarding the hen house, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, even well-intentioned initiatives, like, remember Bonnie Har's petition to get Coke to stop using, BVO and all
Right.
these crazy ingredients?
Right.
They face a huge uphill battle against these big lobbies,
It's a tough fight.
So what's the solution? I mean, is there any hope? Are we all just doomed?
Well, I don't think Dr. Hyman would say we're doomed. He's actually a big advocate for policy changes.
Okay.
He thinks we need things like clear front of package labeling,
Yeah.
so we can easily see what's actually in our food
Uh-huh.
stricter restrictions on marketing junk food to kids,
Okay.
and even reforming SNFP and school lunch programs to make sure they're actually prioritizing healthier options.
Yeah, I mean, those all sound like great ideas,
Right.
but like realistically,
Yeah.
given the influence of these big food lobbies that we've been talking about,
Yeah.
do you think those changes are even possible?
I mean, that's the million-dollar question, right?
Yeah.
Like, policy change is a must, but it takes a long time.
Right.
And there's going to be a lot of pushback from those who benefit from the current system.
Right.
But that doesn't mean we're completely powerless in the meantime. There are absolutely things that we can do right now to take back our health.
Okay, so what are some things that we can do? Like, what are Dr. Hyman's top tips?
Well, one of the biggest things he talks about is making your home a safe zone.
Okay.
Basically, getting rid of all that ultra-processed food.
So, like, no more chips and cookies and stuff in the pantry.
Well, I think you can still have those things occasionally,
Okay.
but they shouldn't be everyday staples.
Right. It's about making them a treat,
Exactly.
not like a regular thing.
Exactly. Another big one is ditching the liquid sugar.
Oh, okay.
So
So,
that's like your sodas, your sweetened coffees.
yeah, those fancy energy drinks and stuff.
All of that. They're loaded with empty calories,
Yeah.
and they're really doing nothing for your health.
Right.
Swap them out for water, unsweetened tea,
Okay.
maybe sparkling water with a little lemon or lime if you want some flavor.
So simple swaps can make a big difference.
Absolutely.
Mm.
He also suggests finding a health buddy.
Okay.
You know, someone to support you, to hold you accountable,
Mhm.
and to celebrate your wins with. It's so much easier to stick with these healthy habits when you have somebody in your corner cheering you on.
That's a good idea. Kind of makes it more fun, too, like a team effort.
Exactly. He also stresses the importance of moving your body.
Oh, okay.
You don't have to be a marathon runner or anything,
Right.
but find something you enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
Walking, dancing, swimming,
Yeah.
anything that gets you moving,
Yeah.
and make it a regular part of your routine. Even a little bit goes a long way.
Okay, what about supplements? Does he recommend anything specific?
He does.
Mhm.
He thinks supplements can be beneficial, but they shouldn't replace a healthy diet, obviously.
Yeah.
He recommends a multivitamin, vitamin D fish oil, magnesium, and a good probiotic is a good foundation.
Okay, so it's like a holistic approach, diet, lifestyle changes, and
Yeah.
then maybe a little bit of
Yeah.
targeted supplementation on top of that.
Right. And speaking of targeted and personalized, he co-founded a company called Function Health that really focuses on data-driven health decisions.
Oh, yeah, I was really curious about that. Tell me more about that.
So Function Health basically gives you personalized insights
Okay.
based on your unique biology.
Mhm.
So you sign up online,
Okay.
you get some lab tests done,
Mm.
and then they give you this cool dashboard that explains your results in a really clear way, so you know what your body actually needs.
I love that, getting that data and those insights about like what's going on in your body.
I know, it's really helpful.
Yeah.
And they test for a whole range of things: metabolic health, hormone levels, nutrient deficiencies, even toxin exposure. It's way more than you would get at a normal doctor visit.
Yeah, it's really in-depth. I saw they have a special offer for listeners.
They do.
What's that all about?
So they're a little bit backed up right now. They have a wait list,
Okay.
but listeners to the show can skip the line with the code GREATNESS100. It gives you priority access.
Okay, Greatness 100, got it. Okay, so
Easy to remember.
one thing that really stood out to me in all this research is
Right.
like all the stuff about belly fat.
Oh, yeah.
Is it really as bad as everyone says?
It really is like
Yeah.
belly fat is way more than just a cosmetic issue.
Okay.
It's actually a metabolically active organ
Wow.
that releases harmful chemicals into your body.
So it's not just about like fitting into your genes.
Well,
it
it's not just
actually
about looks.
It impacts your health.
It's about your internal health. Belly fat is a huge culprit in insulin resistance,
Okay.
which is linked to like a scary list of chronic diseases.
Like what?
We're talking cancer, heart disease, type 2 diabetes, even dementia.
Wow, that's a lot.
It's a lot. And that statistic we were talking about earlier, about 93.2% of Americans having signs of metabolic dysfunction,
Right.
that's often tied to excess belly fat.
Okay, so that's like a pretty serious wake-up call
Yes.
for a lot of people. But okay, the good news, I guess, is that
Uh-huh.
it's not necessarily your fault and it is something that you can change.
Absolutely.
Now, I want to talk about something I think a lot of people struggle with,
Okay.
but don't always talk about, and that's food addiction.
Yeah, it can be a touchy subject for sure.
But the Yale Food Addiction Scale, which like measures the severity of food addiction,
Right. Yeah.
shows that like 14% of adults
Wow.
and 12% of children meet the criteria for food addiction.
That's a lot of people. That's like almost on par with alcohol addiction.
Exactly.
It's a real problem.
Yeah.
And the research is really clear. Food addiction is a real serious problem.
Okay.
And it's not about lacking willpower. It's not about being greedy. It's about understanding the biological forces at play here. And just like any addiction, it needs to be addressed with compassion and support.
Right. And Dr. Hyman has a program to help with this, right? Tell us about his 10-day detox.
Yes. He often recommends this as a kind of reset button for your body.
Okay.
The program involves cutting out certain foods for 10 days.
Okay, like what kind of foods?
So we're talking sugar, alcohol, grains, beans,
Okay.
things like that. It's designed to reduce inflammation
Okay.
and give your body a chance to heal.
That sounds kind of intense, 10 days of that.
It is a commitment,
Yeah.
but the results people experience are incredible. Reduced symptoms, weight loss,
Uh-huh.
a new sense of energy. It can be pretty amazing.
And I imagine it helps to break those addictive food patterns too, right?
Absolutely. By taking away those most common trigger foods,
Okay.
it helps you kind of recalibrate your body and mind's relationship with food.
So where can listeners learn more if they're interested?
All the information is on Dr. Hyman's website, dryremen.com. You can learn about the program, sign up for the next round.
Okay.
He also have a ton of great free resources on his website and social media, so definitely check those out.
Perfect. Okay, so we've talked a lot about the problems with the food system, the influence of these big corporations,
Right.
Dr. Hyman's ideas for solutions,
Uh-huh.
but I also think there's this element of personal responsibility too.
Absolutely.
Like what we choose to buy and eat, how we prepare our food, and like our overall lifestyle choices.
You're totally right. Even within a system that sometimes makes it harder to make those healthy choices, we still have agency. We can still make choices that align with our health goals.
So if we're trying to avoid these ultra-processed foods
Yeah.
that are so prevalent in our food system,
Right.
what should we be eating?
Well, Dr. Hyman is all about whole foods.
Okay, so.
Your fruits, your veggies, lean proteins, healthy fats,
Okay.
nuts, seeds, basically the stuff our bodies are designed to thrive on.
But what about people who live in food deserts, like places where it's hard to access
Right.
fresh, healthy food?
Yeah, that's a huge challenge, and it's a big systemic issue that really needs to be addressed. Dr. Hyman actually talks about this concept called the Retail Food Environment Index,
Okay.
which basically measures the ratio of fast food restaurants and convenience stores to grocery stores selling healthy food.
Okay.
And in a lot of low-income communities, that ratio is heavily skewed towards unhealthy choices.
It's like environmental injustice almost,
It is.
where they're just set up to fail.
Absolutely. We need policy changes that increase access to affordable, nutritious food in every community.
Right.
But in the meantime, there are still things we can do to try to make those healthier choices within those limitations.
Okay, so what are some things that people can do?
So if fresh produce is hard to find or too expensive, frozen fruits and vegetables are a great alternative.
All right.
They're often just as nutritious
Okay.
and can be a lot more affordable.
What about canned goods?
You can definitely do canned goods.
Oh,
Just watch out for added sugars and sodium.
okay.
Look for the no salt added or packed in water options.
Good tips.
Yeah.
But what about people who hate to cook? Like,
Oh, yeah, that's a real struggle.
any advice for making healthy eating more convenient?
I mean, meal prepping is a lifesaver. If you can carve out a few hours on the weekend to cook a big batch of something healthy, you've got meals ready to go for the whole week.
Okay.
It saves so much time, and it helps avoid that temptation to order takeout.
Right, just like grab and go.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to get creative with leftovers.
Okay.
That roast chicken can be a salad. It can be a soup. Those leftover veggies can be tossed into a frittata or a stir fry.
Right, so many possibilities.
Endless possibilities.
I love it. Okay, so now if we can circle back to Dr. Hyman's approach of using food as medicine, he's a big advocate for functional medicine, right?
He is.
Which is about finding and addressing the root causes of disease
Right.
rather than just treating symptoms.
All right, it's a much deeper dive. It's looking at the whole person
Okay.
rather than just putting a Band-Aid on the problem.
So it's holistic.
Absolutely. Functional medicine takes into account everything. Diet, lifestyle, genetics, environment, even emotional well-being.
It's about treating the whole person, not just the disease.
Exactly. And Dr. Hyman believes food is this powerful tool for healing. He sees it as a way to balance the body and promote healing from within.
So I gotta ask, what about genetics? If like heart disease or diabetes runs in your family, are you just destined to get it? Or can lifestyle choices really make a difference?
That's a question I hear a lot.
Mhm.
and it's something a lot of people worry about.
Yeah.
Our genes definitely play a role, but they don't determine our destiny.
So it's not like a life sentence.
No, not at all. Think of your genes like a blueprint,
Okay.
but your lifestyle choices can have a huge impact on how those genes are expressed.
So you can actually influence how those genes behave.
Exactly. You can either feed the genes that lead to disease, or you can feed the genes that promote health. That's why things like diet, exercise, sleep, stress management, they're so important.
Okay.
And while we can't change the genes we inherit, we can understand our predispositions and make choices to support our health.
That's empowering. It's good to know that we actually have more control than we think we do.
It is. And this is where this whole concept of personalized medicine comes in.
Okay.
It's the idea of tailoring healthcare to each individual based on their genes, their lifestyle, their environment.
So moving away from that one-size-fits-all approach.
Exactly. And Dr. Hyman believes personalized nutrition is key.
Okay.
It's about finding the foods that work best for your body.
That makes sense. And there are tools to help people figure this out, right? Like Function Health, which we were talking about earlier.
Exactly. Function Health is a great example of how data and technology can be used to give those personalized recommendations.
Cool.
It's really exciting to see how this field is developing.
Okay, so let's shift gears a little bit and talk about weight. In our weight-obsessed culture, it's so easy to get caught up in the number on the scale. But is weight really the best indicator of health?
It's something we're all conditioned to focus on, but weight alone doesn't tell the whole story.
Okay.
Body composition, the ratio of muscle mass to fat mass, is a much more accurate way to look at health.
So someone could be like within a healthy weight range,
Yeah.
but still have an unhealthy body composition.
Exactly. And it's also important to look at things like waist circumference,
Okay.
which is a measure of belly fat.
Right. We talked about the dangers of that earlier.
We did, yeah. But it's worth emphasizing how important this is.
So remind us again, what's the big deal with belly fat? I mean, we know it increases the risk of all these chronic diseases, but why?
So belly fat, which is also known as visceral fat, is stored deep within your abdomen surrounding your organs.
Okay.
And it's much more metabolically active than the subcutaneous fat that sits just beneath the skin.
Okay, what does metabolically active even mean?
It means it's constantly releasing inflammatory chemicals into your body.
Okay.
And that can lead to all sorts of problems like heart disease, type 2 diabetes, some types of cancer.
Wow, that's scary. So even if you're not overweight, according to like the BMI chart or whatever,
Right?
having a lot of belly fat is still a red flag.
Absolutely. It's so important to focus on reducing belly fat, even if you're not necessarily trying to lose weight overall.
So how do we do that? Are there like certain exercises that target belly fat?
That's actually a myth.
Oh, really?
A lot of people think you can target fat loss in specific areas.
Okay.
But unfortunately, doing a million crunches isn't going to magically give you six-pack abs.
So there's no shortcuts.
Nope. Not when it comes to belly fat. You need to focus on overall fat loss through a combination of diet and exercise.
So creating a calorie deficit through healthy eating habits
Right.
and doing exercises that build muscle mass.
Exactly. So strength training is really important.
Okay, so we got to think beyond just cardio.
Exactly. Yeah. Incorporate a variety of exercises.
Gotcha.
And remember, consistency is more important than intensity. It's not about killing yourself at the gym every day.
Right.
It's about finding activities you enjoy and making them a regular part of your life.
Makes sense. You know, I think for a lot of people, the biggest hurdle isn't necessarily lack of information. It's more like mindset, like
Yeah.
that feeling of being overwhelmed,
Right.
not knowing where to start, or just not believing that change is even possible.
You're so right. Our thoughts and beliefs can have a huge impact on our actions. If you believe you're incapable of change, you're much less likely to actually make those changes.
So how do we cultivate like a more positive and supportive mindset when it comes to our health?
Well, I think a good place to start is to identify those negative thought patterns
Okay.
or limiting beliefs that might be holding you back.
Like I'm too old to change,
Exactly.
or I could never stick to a healthy diet.
Exactly. Things like that. And once you've identified them, you can start to challenge them.
Okay.
Ask yourself, is this really true? Or is this just a story I've been telling myself?
Okay.
And then start replacing those negative thoughts with more positive and empowering ones.
What about affirmations? Do those actually work?
They really can. Repeating positive statements to yourself like,
Okay.
I am capable of making healthy choices,
Yeah.
or I'm worthy of good health, can actually retrain your brain to focus on the positive.
Okay, that makes sense.
It can help you start to believe in yourself
Yeah.
and your ability to reach your goals.
It sounds kind of woo-woo, but I've heard they can be helpful.
They can be, really. And it's also crucial to surround yourself with supportive people.
Yeah.
Connect with people who lift you up and inspire you on your health journey.
Because negativity and self-doubt are contagious, but so are positivity and encouragement.
Absolutely. And don't be afraid to seek professional help if you need it. A therapist or health coach can really provide guidance and accountability as you're working towards those goals.
That's a good point. So speaking of goals, how do we actually set like realistic and achievable goals that we can actually stick to? Because it's so easy to just get overwhelmed and then just give up if you set those goals too high.
Absolutely. The key is to start small.
Oh, okay.
Instead of trying to overhaul your entire life overnight, just focus on 1 or 2 healthy changes at a time.
Okay, so like swapping out sugary drinks for water or adding a serving of veggies to your meals.
Exactly. Those small changes really add up over time.
Yeah.
And don't forget to celebrate your successes.
Yeah.
Even the little wins help to keep you motivated and on track.
Yeah, it's about building that momentum and creating those sustainable habits that you can stick with, for the long haul.
All right. Remember, progress, not perfection.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, so one thing I personally struggle with is like navigating those social situations, It can be hard to stick to your healthy habits when you're surrounded by all those tempting foods and drinks.
Oh, tell me about it, especially at parties, holidays,
Yeah.
any kind of gathering where food is the focus.
It's rough. So, what are some tips? How do we avoid overindulging and stay on track in those situations?
Well, one simple but super effective tip is to make sure you don't show up to a party starving.
Okay.
Eat a healthy snack beforehand
Right?
so you're not as tempted to overdo it when you get there.
That's such good advice. I always show up starving.
Me too.
And then I eat everything in sight.
Yeah, exactly.
That's good advice.
And if you're the one hosting, try to offer some healthy options alongside the less healthy ones.
Okay.
Things like veggie platters with hummus, fruit skewers,
Yeah.
or big salad.
So there's something for everyone.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to politely decline foods that you know don't make you feel good.
Okay.
It's okay to say no to that second piece of cake or another glass of wine.
Yeah.
You don't owe anyone an explanation.
It's about putting your well-being first
Exactly.
and not feeling pressured
Right.
to eat or drink things you don't want.
Yeah. And try to focus on connecting with people and enjoying the experience.
So shifting the focus from the food to the actual social connection.
Exactly. Parties are about so much more than just eating.
Right.
And remember, it's totally okay to indulge sometimes.
Yeah.
The key is finding that balance where you can enjoy yourself without totally derailing your health goals.
Okay, I like that. I think it can also be really helpful to find sources of inspiration, whether it's books or podcasts or documentaries or even just people in our lives who are living examples of those healthy habits that we want to adopt. We all need that little nudge sometimes.
Absolutely. And there's so many amazing resources out there.
Yeah.
And Dr. Hyman himself is a great source of inspiration.
Yeah.
His whole message is about empowering people to take control of their health.
Yeah.
And to create a healthier world. And his own personal story is a testament to the power of making those lifestyle changes.
Right.
You know?
Right. He reversed his own health problems
Yeah.
through what he learned.
Exactly. It's really inspiring to see someone who practices what they preach.
It gives you that feeling of, if he can do it, maybe I can too.
Exactly. And there are so many other amazing stories out there of people who have completely transformed their health
That's
through these
kind of-
really simple lifestyle changes.
Yeah.
And finding those stories that resonate with you can be incredibly motivating. They remind us that change is possible.
Absolutely.
And it's not about perfection. It's about progress.
It's about celebrating those little victories along the way.
Exactly. We all need to hear that sometime.
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
Because making those changes, especially in a world that doesn't always make it easy,
Right.
can be really tough.
It is. It's okay to stumble. It's okay to not be perfect. Just keep moving forward.
And I think it can be really helpful to connect with other people who are on the same journey.
Right.
Like a community of
Yeah.
like-minded folks. It can really make you feel less alone and more supported in your efforts.
Totally. It's amazing how much we can learn from each other and inspire each other.
Right.
Just sharing our experiences, offering encouragement, celebrating successes, it makes a huge difference.
Yeah. And it's okay to ask for help.
For
too.
sure.
Right. Whether it's from friends and family or online communities or even seeking support from a therapist or health coach, we don't have to go it alone.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah.
There's no shame in reaching out for support. In fact, it's a sign of strength. Now, one thing that can be really tricky, I think, in
Yeah.
the health
Yeah.
and wellness world is all the conflicting information out there.
Oh my gosh. Yes, it's so overwhelming.
Right.
It's like 1 minute something is good for you, the next minute it's bad for you. It's like, how do we even know what to believe anymore?
Exactly. So that's where critical thinking skills come in.
Oh.
Don't just blindly accept everything you read or hear. Question it.
Ask yourself, like, who's the source of this information?
Take a
What's
sip.
their agenda? Is there, like, actual scientific evidence to
Right.
back up their claims?
Exactly. And look for those credible sources. Reputable health organizations,
Mhm.
research institutions, qualified healthcare professionals.
Yeah, those are generally good places to start.
Yeah,
for
those
sure.
are the people you can usually trust. And be wary of those fad diets or quick fixes.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know, the ones that promise those miracle results. If it sounds too good to be true,
Right.
it probably is.
It probably is, yeah.
Sustainable change takes time and consistent effort.
Yeah.
There's no magic pill or secret formula.
Yeah.
It's all about building those healthy habits that you can stick with for the long haul.
And speaking of things that can be tough to break free from, I think, we touched on food addiction earlier,
Yeah.
but I feel like it's something that deserves a bit more attention.
Absolutely.
It affects so many people.
It does.
And it can be just incredibly challenging to overcome.
It's a real problem, and I think it's one that often doesn't get the attention it deserves.
Right.
And it's not about willpower.
Right.
It's not about being weak.
Uh-huh.
It's a biological response to certain foods that can be just as powerful as any other addiction.
Okay, so if someone listening suspects that they might be struggling with this, what's like the first step?
I think the most important thing is just acknowledging the problem and realizing that it's okay to ask for help.
Right.
There's no shame in that.
Yeah.
And there are lots of resources out there, support groups,
Mm-hmm.
therapy, even specialized treatment centers.
And Dr. Hyman's 10-day detox we talked about earlier can
Yeah.
be really helpful in this context too.
Yeah.
Right.
It's a great tool for breaking free from those addictive patterns.
Yeah.
It helps to eliminate those trigger foods
Yeah.
and reset your body's response to food. And it can be a great jumping off point for just creating a healthier lifestyle overall.
Right. Another thing I've noticed a lot in the health and wellness world is this tendency to label foods as either good or bad.
Oh, yeah.
And I think this creates so much guilt and shame around food,
Yeah.
which is really just not helpful.
It's really not.
Yeah.
That whole food morality thing is so pervasive,
Right.
but it's so unhelpful.
Right.
It can lead to all sorts of restrictive eating patterns
Yeah.
and a really unhealthy relationship with food.
It's about ditching that all or nothing mentality.
Exactly.
And embracing something that's a little bit more balanced and moderate.
A more balanced approach.
Yeah.
Food should be nourishing and enjoyable,
Yes.
not a source of stress and guilt.
Exactly. You should be able to enjoy your food and not feel bad about it.
Absolutely. There's no need to demonize certain foods
Right.
or feel guilty for enjoying those less healthy options every once in a while.
Yeah.
It's all about finding a way to nourish your body and soul without deprivation.
And I think self-love plays a huge role in this too.
Oh, absolutely.
Treating ourselves with kindness and compassion rather than constantly criticizing and judging ourselves.
Self-love is essential for making those sustainable, healthy changes. And it starts with those simple acts of self-care.
Okay.
Taking a relaxing bath,
Yeah.
reading a book, spending time in nature, connecting with loved ones.
Yeah, whatever brings you joy, right?
Exactly. It's about being kind to yourself.
Yeah.
Talking to yourself the way you would talk to a good friend.
Offering support and encouragement, not criticism.
Exactly. And celebrating your successes along the way,
Yeah.
no matter how small.
It's about recognizing how far you've come.
Yes.
Rather than focusing on how far you still have to go.
And another area where self-love is so important is body image.
Yeah.
We live in a society that puts so much emphasis on how we look.
It's everywhere.
Right.
It's hard to escape.
It can be really tough.
Yeah.
And it can lead to those negative body image issues and even disordered eating.
So how do we challenge those unrealistic beauty standards and cultivate a more positive body image?
Well, I think a good place to start is to shift your focus from how your body looks to what it can do.
Okay.
Appreciate your body's strength,
Yes.
its flexibility, its resilience.
So focus on the functionality rather than the aesthetics.
Exactly. And be mindful of the media you consume.
Okay.
Try to limit your exposure to those images and messages that promote those unrealistic beauty standards. Surround yourself with positive influences,
Yeah.
people who value health and well-being over appearance.
Because it really does, like, seep into your subconscious, even if you don't realize it.
Right.
It's about creating a more supportive and empowering environment for yourself.
Absolutely. We were talking earlier about
Mhm.
all the conflicting health information out there.
Yeah, it can be so confusing.
Right. But the truth is, nutrition science is constantly evolving. So how do we stay informed without getting totally overwhelmed by every new study or every new trend?
It can be hard. Like, there's always something new.
I think it's helpful to stick with those fundamentals. There are certain core principles that remain pretty consistent, no matter what the latest fad diet is.
Okay, so, like what?
So things like eating a variety of whole things,
Yeah.
limiting processed foods, staying hydrated, and really just listening to your body's cues.
But those are like the
The
basics.
basics, they never go out of style.
They don't.
So focus on building that solid foundation of healthy habits
Uh-huh.
and don't get too bogged down in the details.
Right. It's about keeping it simple.
It is.
Mm.
We talked about stress earlier too, but I think it's worth emphasizing how much stress can impact our food choices. When we're feeling overwhelmed or stressed out,
Oh, yeah.
it's so easy to just reach for those comfort foods.
It's like instant gratification.
Right, it gives you that temporary relief.
Right. But it's not really solving the problem.
It's not. It's called emotional eating,
Yeah.
and it's something most of us can probably relate to at some point. We're using food to cope with those difficult emotions, rather than to actually satisfy physical hunger.
So it might make you feel good in the moment,
Mhm.
but ultimately it's not addressing the root of the problem.
Exactly. And it often leads to feelings of guilt and shame afterwards, which just makes things worse.
Okay, so how do we break free from those emotional eating patterns?
Well, the first step is awareness.
Okay.
Being able to recognize when you're eating out of emotion
Okay.
versus actual physical hunger. Ask yourself, what am I really feeling right now? Am I stressed? Am I sad? Am I anxious? Am I bored?
So, like, identify those triggers, those emotions that are
That's-
driving you to reach for food.
Exactly. And once you've identified those triggers, you can start to develop some healthier coping mechanisms.
Okay, so, like, what? Give us some ideas.
Well, things like journaling, talking to a trusted friend or family member,
Yeah.
going for a walk, engaging in a hobby that you love, meditation.
So, like, finding activities that help you to, like, soothe and regulate your emotions
That's
without
right.
turning to food.
Exactly. And remember, you don't have to do this alone. A therapist or counselor can be incredibly helpful in providing support and guidance as you work through these challenges.
Right, so don't be afraid to ask for help.
Please don't.
And I think setting realistic goals can be helpful too.
Yeah.
Right? Like, if your goals are too big or too overwhelming, it's easy to get discouraged and just throw in the towel.
You're so right. Goals can be a powerful tool for making lasting, healthy changes.
Yeah.
But it's important to set SMART goals. Specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound.
I've heard of SMART goals.
They're great. They're a great framework for setting goals that you can actually stick with. And don't forget to break those big goals down into smaller, more manageable steps.
So instead of saying, like, I want to lose 50 pounds,
Right.
you start with something like, I'm going to walk for 30 minutes 3 times a week.
Exactly. Those smaller wins help you stay motivated and on track. And don't forget to celebrate those successes along the way. Give yourself credit for every single healthy choice that you make.
It's about recognizing those positive steps, even if they seem small.
Absolutely. I think it's also helpful to have inspiring role models, people who embody the values and the habits that we want to cultivate in our own lives.
Yeah, and they don't have to be, like, famous or anything.
Yeah, I don't know.
It could be a friend or family member or a mentor
Yeah.
or someone you follow on social media. The important thing is that they inspire you.
They inspire you to be your best.
Yeah, exactly.
And look for those people who prioritize their health and well-being, who are making healthy choices, who have a positive attitude towards food and movement.
Yeah.
And don't be afraid to reach out to them for advice or support.
Yeah, people are usually happy to share what they've learned and offer words of encouragement.
Absolutely.
And having a community of like-minded people can
Yeah.
be so powerful too, whether it's like an online support group or a group of friends who share your health goals. That sense of belonging and support can make a huge difference.
Absolutely. We're stronger together.
Yeah.
And when we share those experiences and encourage each other, it creates this amazing positive ripple effect that extends far beyond our immediate circle.
Okay, so how do we build that supportive community? Where do we even find those like-minded folks?
There are so many ways. You can join a gym, a fitness class,
Yeah.
connect with people online who share your interests.
Uh-huh.
You can volunteer at a local food bank or community garden.
Okay.
Get involved in initiatives that promote health and well-being in your community. And remember, even small acts of kindness can make a huge difference.
Like offering a smile or a word of encouragement to someone
Oh,
who
yeah.
might be having a tough day.
You never know how much that can mean to someone.
It's true. So ultimately, I think it comes down to knowledge and a willingness to keep learning and growing
Right.
throughout our health journey.
Knowledge is power.
Oh,
And the more we learn about our bodies and how they work, the better equipped we are to make those informed choices.
yeah. So how do we keep learning?
Well, there are so many amazing resources out there.
Yeah, I mean,
Read books and articles, listen to podcasts like this one,
right.
watch documentaries, attend workshops and conferences, take online courses, talk to your doctor,
Mm.
and don't be afraid to ask questions.
Yeah, because curiosity is like the key ingredient to lifelong learning.
It is. Never stop exploring, never stop asking questions, and never stop learning.
I love that. And I think it's also really important to tap into your passion, like that thing that really lights you up and gets you excited about taking care of your health.
Oh, absolutely. When you're passionate about something,
Yeah.
it feels less like a chore,
Hmm.
right? And more like something you actually enjoy doing.
Exactly. So how do we find that passion?
Start by connecting with your why. Like, why is health important to you?
Mm.
What are your goals?
Yeah.
What do you want to be able to do with your body and your life?
Okay.
Once you have that clear sense of purpose,
Yeah.
it's so much easier to stay motivated.
I love that, connecting with that deeper purpose.
It's everything.
Yeah.
And find those activities that you truly enjoy, whether it's dancing or hiking or swimming, cooking, healthy meals,
Yeah.
whatever brings you joy.
Yeah, it shouldn't feel like a chore.
No, it shouldn't.
Yeah.
It should be something you look forward to. And surround yourself with people who share your passion.
Yeah, because enthusiasm is contagious.
It is.
Yeah.
Being around those positive, supportive people
Yeah.
who are excited about health can make a huge difference.
It really can. You know, and I think it's important to remember, too, that food is about so much more than just fuel.
Oh, yeah.
It's a way to connect with our culture, our heritage,
Right.
our loved ones. It's
Yeah.
about pleasure, enjoyment, celebration.
It is. Food plays such a central role in our lives, and it's meant to be enjoyed.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to savor your food, appreciate the flavors, the textures, and share those meals with people you love.
Food is always better in good company.
Always. And when we approach food with that sense of gratitude and enjoyment,
Right.
it can completely transform our whole relationship with it. Now, let's be real.
Yeah.
We're all going to face setbacks along the way.
Oh, yeah.
We might slip up on our diet. We might miss a workout.
Yeah.
We might just have a day where we feel totally off track.
It's going to happen.
It's inevitable. It happens to all of us.
Right. And it's easy to get discouraged and feel like you've failed.
It is.
Yeah.
But the key is to not let those setbacks derail you completely.
Okay. So how do we deal with those setbacks in a
Yeah.
healthy way?
Well, first, remember that setbacks are normal. They're a part of the journey. They don't mean that you're a failure
Yeah.
or that you should give up. Instead, try to view them as learning opportunities.
Okay.
Ask yourself, what can I learn from this? What can I do differently next time?
So, like, get curious about what happened
Yeah.
rather than beating yourself up about it.
Right. Because shame and guilt are not motivating. They usually just make us feel worse and less likely to get back on track.
Totally.
Self-compassion is key.
Yeah, be kind to yourself.
Yeah.
For sure.
Remember, progress, not perfection.
And I think resilience is important too, right? Like that ability to bounce back from those setbacks
Yes.
and keep moving forward.
Resilience is essential. And I think there are a few things you can do to build resilience. Having a growth mindset,
Okay.
believing that you're capable of change and that you can learn from your mistakes,
Mm-hmm.
practicing self-compassion like we were talking about,
Yeah.
treating yourself with kindness and understanding
Okay.
even when you mess up.
Yeah.
And having a strong support system is so important. Surround yourself with people who will encourage you, who will be there for you when things get tough.
Because we all need a little help sometimes.
We do.
Yeah.
We absolutely do. And try to focus on your strengths. What are you good at? What do you enjoy? And use those things to help you overcome challenges.
It's about remembering what we're good at
Exactly.
and using those strengths to fuel our health journey.
Exactly. And when you finally achieve those goals you've been working towards, celebrate.
Oh, yeah. You got to celebrate those wins.
Absolutely.
It feels so good to see that hard work pay off.
It is. It gives you that motivation to keep going.
So how should we celebrate those health successes?
Well, I'm all about rewarding yourself in healthy ways. Maybe
Okay.
take a relaxing vacation,
Oh,
get yourself some new workout gear,
Dare treat yourself.
right? Maybe cook a delicious meal and share it with friends and family.
That's a good idea. And don't be afraid to, like, brag a little bit.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Right. Like, let people know how far you've come. You've earned it.
You absolutely have. And most importantly, take some time to reflect.
Okay.
What have you learned along the way? What are you grateful for? How has this whole experience changed you?
Yeah. It's about, like, savoring those accomplishments and acknowledging your growth.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you know what? The future of health is so exciting.
It is.
There are so many advancements happening in the
Mhm.
fields of health and nutrition, personalized medicine, precision nutrition, the microbiome. All of these things hold so much promise
Yeah.
for creating a healthier future for everyone.
I'm excited to see what happens next.
Me too. And Dr. Hyman actually talks about this idea of longevity,
Okay.
living a long, healthy, vibrant life.
Right. Not just, like, tacking on years to your lifespan.
No, it's not just about living longer.
But actually,
It's about the quality of those years.
yeah, making those years count.
Exactly. And I love that he believes that this is achievable for all of us.
So what are, like, the keys to longevity? Aside from everything we've talked about already, of course.
Well, purpose and meaning are huge. Having a sense of purpose can give you that drive to get up every morning
Yeah.
to make the most of each day.
So, like, find something you're passionate about.
Exactly.
Go for it.
Go for it. And don't be afraid to step outside your comfort zone.
Yeah.
Try new things, keep growing, keep evolving. Longevity is about embracing life to the fullest.
I love that. And it's never too late to start making changes.
Never. Even small changes can have a big impact over time.
So, for anyone listening who is feeling inspired right now, what's one small change you can make today to support your health and longevity?
Drink an extra glass of water.
Yep.
Go for a 15-minute walk.
Yeah.
Call a friend you haven't talked to in a while. Try a 5-minute meditation.
Okay. So, like, it doesn't have to be this big, overwhelming thing.
It doesn't.
It can just be one small step.
One small step. Every step you take, no matter how small, gets you closer to your goals.
It's those little steps taken consistently
Yes.
that add up over time.
And remember, you're worth it. Your health is an investment in your present and your future.
Yeah.
Invest in yourself. You deserve to live a long, healthy, vibrant life.
I love that. And Dr. Hyman believes that we have the power to create a healthier world. One person, one choice, one meal at a time.
It's an inspiring vision. And it starts with each of us taking responsibility for our own health.
Yeah, so let's start today. Let's choose health, let's choose happiness, let's choose a brighter future for ourselves and for generations to come.
What's so fascinating to me is that we really do have more control over our health than we often realize.
We do.
And it's empowering to know that we can make choices that support our well-being.
Yeah.
And it's inspiring to see how those choices can ripple outwards
Yeah.
and create positive change in the world.
Well, this deep dive has certainly given us a lot to think about. And hopefully it sparks some inspiration and motivation for our listeners to make some positive changes.
I hope so.
Remember, you have the power to choose, the power to change, and the power to create a healthier world for yourself and for everyone around you.
And if we connect this back to that bigger picture,
Yeah.
we can see that our personal health choices aren't just about us. They're about creating a healthier, more sustainable world for everyone.
Absolutely.
So what step will you take today to reclaim your health?
And remember, knowledge is most valuable when it's understood and applied. That's what the deep dive is all about. We hope you've enjoyed this exploration, and we'll see you next time for another fascinating deep dive.